Hello.
Welcome.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I am doing quite well. How are you?
Not too shabby, just a little tired. It's been a long
Yes,
day.
I'm sure.
Alrighty, let's start off by talking a little bit about like your childhood and then to now.
Okay. Childhood. So I grew up in the Midwest. Moved out to Arizona when I was 18, 19. And then when I got out here, wasn't too long after I moved out here where I got into a long-term abusive relationship. But majority of the abuse I endured was sexual violence was the majority of it, um, and was in that relationship about 5 years. Left at the age of 24, but I'm 30 now, and just really involved in advocacy, going to school, and running my firm with my partner and trying to raise a child. So just to give a quick summary, but
Perfect. So let's just jump right into it and share
yeah.
your story with the abuse.
Yeah, so I do identify, as I said, identify as a survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault. And as I said, yeah, my relationship began when I was 19, left at 24. But the abuse was indeed mostly sexual. My abuser would rape me daily in the hopes of getting me pregnant, and I did end up getting pregnant at 21 with my abuser's child. And he would even assault me every day during my pregnancy, even after our son was born too. Um,
Oh wow.
and yeah, so I had spent a lot of years. I spent next couple of years just working on trying to get out of that situation, whether it was saving what money I could or just trying to find places to go. Um, and it was, as a survivor, that question you always get asked is like, why did you stay? Or why did you go? Or why didn't you leave sooner? And it was November 29th of 2014 when I did decide to leave, told my abuser I was leaving. And that's when he brutally attacked me worse than he ever had previously. And actually raped me in front of our child, who was 2. And tried to kill me that day. And it wasn't for his friends that were there to interrupt him attacking me, I probably wouldn't be alive today. um, and so it was after that moment, he was arrested that day, and I finally went to the police to report it. Had to go through the whole rape examination and everything like that. But it was 2 years even post that, just going through the whole um, judicial process of trying to go to trial and have my case be heard. But eventually he got pled out, because of my evidence. The photos and some stuff taken from my rape examination were misplaced and no longer could be found. So because of the lack of evidence that was lost during preparations, they pled him out. And yeah, I was really devastated by that. But after that, I just got really involved with law. I got this passion that I was never going to let this happen to anybody else again. So I'm striving to become an advocate attorney myself,
That's
to help
awesome.
others. Yeah, so I really want to help other survivors and even those who are unfortunately become victims of this violence, get their day in court, or at least get them a second chance at life. And yeah, that's where my passion is now. So
Unfortunately, so many abusers don't face much justice, and if they do, it's
no,
really, really short.
no, I mean that's one thing I've come up with other survivors that I meet with. We've kind of come up with this phrase that there's no justice, there's just us. And we, with the way laws are designed to protect more of the defendants in those situations than the victims, it's difficult to get any type of resolution. Oh, sorry, my computer. I'm grab my computer charger really fast. I thought I had it plugged in. 1 second.
Okay.
Sorry, my apologies.
All good.
But we're good to go now.
So I want to dive into the point you made about the question everyone asks is like, why'd you stay?
Yeah.
Because I'm curious as that well, because I never had to face anything like that, and I'm sorry you did, and I want to know a little more about that.
So I get asked that question all the time, and I always try to educate others on to not ask that question. But
Oh,
I am more
okay.
uncomfortable. No, I'm
My
more
bad.
uncomfortable. No, 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 no. I am
Yeah.
more than comfortable answering it. It's
Okay.
one thing I've learned is that a lot of individuals when learning about these issues, they tend to not intentionally, but they'll put blame on the survivor. And when you ask
Yeah.
that question, almost in a way is like, why did you stay? And for me, why I stayed, it's weird. Like when the violence started happening, when the abuse started happening, it was so slow at first. The first year wasn't a lot, and it was so slow at first that eventually it just became so normalized, and things get gaslighted, and you start feeling like this is what a relationship is supposed to be. You kind of, I don't want to say brainwashed, but you just, it gets so normalized that you don't even realize that it's even happening, or it feels weird for it to not be happening.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point I started learning, at being, I don't want to say I was young and dumb, but just being young, you start learning like this isn't right. And now that I had no financial security at the time, I had no family to go to at the time. I didn't know where I would even go if I left. And even when I eventually did leave, after and during that attack and having to go to the police station, having to go get a rape examination, and then go to the court to file a order of protection because I didn't know where my abuser was at the time. um, I ended up in my car that night with my child because I had nowhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
After my abuser was arrested, I was no longer lethality for shelters to take me in, so I ended up having to sleep in a car. So, and I think that kind of, you just think about your plan. Like, you have a kid, especially when there's a kid involved, you dream. As a woman, I dreamt of like having this mother and a father and this tight knit family, and I thought maybe we could do something and we can make it work somehow for our child. And and he also was battling an addiction with drugs and alcohol, so I thought maybe if he could get treated, the violence would stop. And I just kept making these excuses in a way. And at one point I just had to wake up and be like, he's never going to change. nothing's going to nothing's going to change. It's just basically the realization I came to. So I just had to work on getting out. But even leaving took me a couple of years to try to make arrangements and just even save enough money for, court battles and family court with, child custody and everything. And it still ended up with me almost losing my life when I tried to leave. And, that fear just gets instilled in you also. He would be so violent, because I was in school when I met him originally, and he would get so violent, end up having to drop out because I didn't want people questioning my appearance or anything like that. So yeah, that I think that fear just gets instilled in you, and you kind of just lose hope, thinking there's probably nothing better for you out there anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it's different for everybody. That was just my experience, but many survivors will tell you something different, which I'm sure you've heard too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What what kind of resources are out there for people who are going through stuff like that?
So here in Arizona, I live in Pima County in the Tucson area, and here I volunteer with Emerge. It's Emerge Center Against Abuse, and they are their mission is more post-violence. So they have lots of resources for survivors, whether it's group therapies or group sessions with others. They have housing plans to kind of get you on your feet. They have a shelter. They have even a men's program where, since statistics have shown majority of users are male, unfortunately, they have a men's program where they can even meet and try to work on their own on how to rehabilitate and be better in a relationship in the future. They have lay legal services, so they provide all of that, and that's just here locally. And then ACES DV, the Arizona Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence, they provide lots of great resources, and also provide funding to help survivors if they need, just even like a gas card to just get
Yeah.
somewhere safe, or money for hotels or maybe even for pets, if you, because a lot of us have pets and need somewhere safe for them to go. So they provide a lot of resources as well, and also have a bunch of committees that help to either public policy committee to help with legislation, or even a communities of color committee where minorities can meet with other survivors and work on those issues. So there's a lot of those type of local resources which a lot of states have, and then we do have the national coalition as well. And they provide lots of a website with lots of resources too. But even just there's victim services. There's even Arizona. There's SACASA, which is more for sexual assault survivors. That's where they focus mostly on. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of resources out there. I even prepare, like, have a PowerPoint of like resources that I hand out to survivors all the time, just to kind of give them a list of things to that they can have here in Arizona. So those are just some of the summaries on the ones that are here locally.
Okay. Are there certain qualifications that you have to meet to like stay in a woman's shelter or something like that?
So unfortunately, just in Arizona alone, the statistics have shown that more than 1 million Arizonians
Oh wow.
will endure domestic or sexual violence in their lifetime. And just to hear that number is scary, just for one state.
Mm-hmm.
And to know there's very limited shelters out there. Usually, the only people who can qualify for at least shelter services are those who are in a lethal situation. Um, so, unfortunately, that's kind of the response that happens when people call for shelter. Unless it's like a lethal situation, that you're not always going to be approved, unfortunately. But to get involved in their community-based services around here, there's no requirements. It's more just taking that step of calling and working with either, even it's just talking on the hotline with a hotline specialist, and just kind of working with an advocate there is usually the first step, and then they usually will direct you to different resources that you can qualify for. I know Pima County had a survivor grant recently where survivors could qualify. I think it was up to $500 or $700 to get some money, whether it's for gas or for a hotel or just anything to
Mm-hmm.
kind of help them through, especially during the pandemic, because I know just in the Phoenix area, they were seeing about 108% increase in
Oh
reports of
damn.
domestic violence, just because you're being in lockdown with your abuser, and it's hard, especially during right now. So yeah, no, there's no qualifications. It's more just taking that first step, and that's why taking that step is important. But most importantly, the response the survivor gets is even more important. And that's why I try to participate as many trainings as possible to help advocates, learn how to communicate with survivors, and help them to be able to be better equipped in dealing with that emotion coming through the phone or in person, and then learning how to respond properly and help them through and get them the resources they really need.
Yeah, I definitely need to check out those trainings. I think one of the people in the Arizona one asked me to come on one, and I was like, hell yeah.
Yes, you should. That would be great.
So you mentioned in your email that you did stay in a shelter, correct?
Yes, so I stayed in the shelter a couple of times while I was in the relationship, and then even post the relationship, after while I was trying to get ready for trials and stuff, I stayed temporarily in a women's shelter that let me come in with my child until I was able to stay with a family friend, and eventually I was able to get housing or stay with my parents for a little bit when they moved out here, and then got back on my own 2 feet and have my own place now. But yeah, temporarily I was in a women's shelter during and after the relationship.
So you said with a child. Does that mean some of them don't allow you to take children?
Um, so there, I have a list of shelters, and they all have different requirements. Some are just for single women. Some will let you have women and children, or women and children. Some are just for, So I mean, they all have different requirements. They try to help. They try to have different shelters help different, demographics. But yeah, there are some that I have seen that don't have the capacity to help children, and then there's some that do. And unfortunately, I guess that's just the reality. But
Yeah,
yes,
there's so many survivors, but not enough resources.
exactly, exactly. Especially now with COVID, just resources are so remote, And now it's just trying to work on how do you get those resources out to survivors. And that's been the most difficult challenge with a lot of these nonprofits or other organizations working with survivors.
Yeah, and I've noticed a lot of these nonprofits are not the best when it comes to social media, which is how
Yeah.
I know you reach a lot of people, and
Yes.
there's a lack of that.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. I know Emerge and ACES DV are pretty good with their social media campaigns and trying to let them know what's out there. But yeah, I know it wasn't even until I got involved in advocacy that I started learning about other shelters, other organizations that were even out there. I never even heard of half of them
Yeah.
until I started researching them myself. So no, you're right about that. That's very true.
What are you doing with the advocacy?
So mostly what I do is I do a lot of public speaking for ACES DB and for Emerge. I've also do speaking for the University of Arizona. I've spoken on their behalf as well. I also volunteer with Emerge, mostly with Lay Legal and Hotline. And then I serve on the committees with ACES DB. And then on my own, I actually have planned a few trainings myself through the Pima County Bar Association and also with Pima Community College. And then I've done about 3 years. Every October, I do a domestic violence awareness event with them, and I speak there. Um, and then I'm also starting a scholarship for survivors. I'm self-funding it. That should be hopefully the application's supposed to be opening in the next couple of months. I'm just finalizing everything, but that's my other part of my advocacy, because I know for me, higher education was my way out, but getting the funds to go there is not easy. So I just want to help others be able to achieve that if that's their dream. Um, and yeah, and then I also participate in the domestic violence law clinic at the law school here. And I meet with survivors and talk with them and try to help them through their trial or their cases and get them set up with other resources or help them with school applications, whatever they need. Just
Yeah.
try to assist them. Yeah.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah. So just a little bit of everything.
Yeah, school is extremely expensive. I went community college. Community college is a lot cheaper, but it just
Yes.
wasn't for me.
No, I mean, and that's, yeah, it's not for everybody. So that's why if it's, if it's school you want, I want to help. I run my own business with my partner. So if it's trying to set up a business, I'm here to help. Whatever it is I can help with, I try to give them. And if I don't have the answers, I always try to direct them to somebody who can better assist them.
What's your business?
We started it probably the worst time ever, but we started a consulting firm in 2020, actually in July. And it was interesting because Pima County actually contracted us to help with distributing COVID-19 relief funds. So we did grant consulting with a lot of the businesses here, helping them get their applications finalized so that they could receive funding or reimbursement for operating expenses. So it was great helping local business and nonprofits in the areas or childcare providers. We were able to help. So that's mostly what it is. It's just grant consulting, but we're looking to hopefully expand our services once things kind of slow down. But
Yeah.
yeah, but
Hopefully they do.
yeah, but it's fun. We didn't expect the workload that we were going to get doing it, but it was a great experience. And now with the new administration coming in, it looks like there's going to be more COVID-19 relief funding. So it looks like we'll be busy for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you getting your PhD in?
So I'm not doing my PhD yet. I'm doing my master's in law and economics, and then I'll be doing another master's program starting in the summer for human rights practice. And then after that, I'll be doing my Juris Doctorate, so I can eventually be a practicing attorney.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and then I'll probably be doing my PhD later, and it'll probably be focusing more in gender-based violence or gender studies of some sort. But yeah, definitely gonna stick with studying this area and advocacy and just trying to help. Just want to make a difference.
Yeah, the legal system needs a
Yeah,
lot of work.
it needs to be completely redone.
They
A
they
lot
t-
of systems do.
they teach ethics, but I don't think a lot of lawyers follow that.
No, they don't. Not even. I mean, I've encountered judges that I wanted to write complaints about too. So we all needs a lot of work.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Is there anything specific you want to touch on?
Um. specifically, I always just try to get the message out there, especially if to other survivors, that I know for me, losing hope was my, I guess, my downfall in the way. I really just didn't think there was anything better out there for me, because I spent so much of my adolescent and pretty much all of my adult life just really feeling like I just wasn't deserving of things and deserving of a better relationship or that life that we all dream of having one day. And it just took a lot of self-reflection to realize that there is a way out, and there is a way to live life free of abuse. And and that way out isn't for everybody. Some people may want to stay and work and do counseling, and that's fine. Some people might want to escape that relationship. Some people might want, whatever it is, whatever your path is to having the life you deserve. I just want to help develop resources and help direct survivors to those resources to get them to that goal and help them reach those goals. And because I know for me, when I left my relationship, the one thing I started doing was Googling statistics, like what happens now. And you read about the statistics for survivors, and it's like, you're less likely to finish college now. You're going to develop PTSD, or you might become suicidal or develop a drug addiction, or go back to your abuser or something. And it was like, is this really what society has planned for us? Like these are the statistics that are out there. And so the one thing my advocate told me was, she was going to help me. She said, Lauren, you're going to be your own statistic. And that has resonated with me. So it was like, I'm going to help other survivors become their own statistic too. And not have to live in these societal standards that have been set for us. So I just really want other survivors to know that there is a way out, and whatever that path might be for you, there are resources out there and other individuals out there to help you get to that goal. And that's all I'm trying to do, is help others reach that goal.
Hell yeah. Is there
Yeah.
something specific that gave you hope to hold on to?
Um, I would love. It's probably gonna sound cliche, but my son, when he was born, I just had that moment, like, I can't stay in this situation. And even though I wanted to try to make it work for that first year, I tried to make it work and give him, a mother and a father living in the same household, and that traditional a traditional family life. I just I just realized I had to give him a life he deserved. And I had to fight for the life I deserved. And I know it was him who motivated me, mostly out of anybody, to really try to fix and get out of that situation. And I remember specifically, it was my abuser took off with my child because I tried to enroll back into school, and they disappeared for 4 days. I had no idea where he was, and that hurt me so much. And to have someone punish you with your child, um, I guess that was kind of the wake up call I needed, to really get my shit together and just learn to, yeah, and really buckle down and figure out what are my next moves and what can I do. And even though it took me about 2 years after that to really figure out how I'm going to get out, I eventually did, even though it wasn't the way I envisioned, but eventually got out. um, and I couldn't be happier where I'm at now. And I'm still fighting. I heal every day, and I still have to communicate with him because, of course, we have a child in common, and it's an everyday battle. But yeah, I would definitely say my son was my motivation.
A lot of things when it comes to abuse seem to be cliche.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. Um, trying to think here. Second interview, so still practicing and learning.
No, it's great. No, I mean, this is a great project. As soon as I saw it when Doreen sent it, I was like, oh, I want to be a part of it, because I thought it's such a great endeavor, and I think it's really unique and creative way of trying to shine light on the situation and on the issue. So I commend you.
Thank
So
you.
this is great.
The idea started from a TikTok, which so this guy had the goal to go to 50 states and find a date in each state. So I was
Oh,
like, that's a
wow.
unique idea. I was like, maybe I can find a survivor in each state.
Shouldn't be a problem, that's for sure. But that's a great. I mean, that's where it seems that's where all the ideas are coming from now, are from TikTok. I don't have a TikTok, but
Oh man, don't start.
no, good. I'll try hard. I think I just made a Twitter just because I wanted to follow all the chaos that was happening. So
Oh man, I just deleted my Twitter because of that.
yeah, I'm probably about to do the same thing. So I was like, I don't know what's happening, so I should probably make one so I can read what's happening, and then yeah, all the chaos is happening now.
Yeah, especially and it's happening during a pandemic as well, making it even
Yes,
worse.
exactly.
Which gives you a lot of, as a survivor, it gives us like a lot of time to think to ourselves.
Yeah, and sometimes that can be difficult, just being stuck in your own thoughts.
Hmm.
I have a bad habit of getting stuck in some of the bad mental state, and sometimes it can be really hard to get out. But I do utilize the hotline. I still call it to this day, and I will still participate in support groups every week. And it's been going on 6 years, 7 years now since I left my relationship. So and I still have to do it. So I can only imagine during the pandemic right now, it can be even more difficult.
Yeah,
So
definitely. What are
yeah.
the hotlines like?
What?
How do the hotlines work and what are they like?
So when I call the national hotline because I volunteer with the local facilities here, so it feels weird to me to call those hotlines since they all know me.
Yeah.
But I call the national one, and they usually they'll usually introduce themselves and tell you, if they're mandatory reporters, like what they might have to call if say you're going to harm yourself or harm a minor in any way, which is just standard. So they usually preface and tell you that first, so you don't say anything you don't want
Yeah, it
to
makes
say.
sense.
Yeah, and then basically, I mean, they're just there to help you. They provide lots of DV education, or any type of sexual violence education, depending on the hotline you call. And they will provide resources for you, but they'll stay on the line with you as long as you need. And be there to talk with you or educate you or just listen. And there's times where I've called and I've just said on the phone, I don't really want to talk, or I don't want to like really hear you talk. I just want to vent right now, and they're totally okay with that. And I liked it because it gave me some control back. Like I was able to hang up the phone if it got too much, or if I just didn't want to
Hmm.
talk anymore. So I was able to have some sense of control while having somebody listen to me who could relate and educate me on what I was feeling and different resources, or maybe different ways I haven't tried of processing those feelings. So it's good. It's nice to have someone who you don't have to look at and be able to the vent and talk to, who doesn't know who you are. I
Yeah,
love
makes it a lot
that.
easier.
Yes.
Because that's how I only told my story. I only like shared my abuse at the beginning of the year, and it's been 10 years since it. And one of
Mhm.
the first things I did was go to an anxiety group that my friend owned.
Oh wow.
And I
Okay.
posted it in there because I was like, it's a bunch of strangers. They don't know who I am.
Exactly.
Just to see like if people were supportive and stuff. And they were, but it's also like, it's a struggle because I'm like, yeah, they're supportive, but are they just doing it because I'm in a support group? And it's a hard thing just to like do that and like think that it's
Right.
real.
Right.
But I'm sure people are actually very sympathetic and there to understand. They're not just saying it because, or else they wouldn't be in there.
Exactly. No, I mean, people who go into being into advocacy aren't doing it for the money, or because I mean, you're doing it to really make a difference. It's from at least what I've seen, and I see the positions that open up, and you see the pay, because I've been asked to kind of to work, but running my business right now, I can't do another job.
Yeah.
But I like, they're not doing it for the pay. They're doing it because they care, and I think that's just an important message. And of course, we've seen nonprofits that aren't run the best and have had some fallouts. But from the organizations I've worked with, they've generally, everybody I've met is doing it because they care, and really want to help survivors. And those are the organizations I try to work with the most.
Yeah,
So
it's usually the local ones which are less corrupt, I guess, since there are
yes,
big ones like for cancer. There's Susan G. Komen, which is has a terrible rep.
Yes, so I've heard. Yeah. No, I mean, I even was trying to help. I was doing some work with Make-A-Wish for a little while, and yeah, I mean, even they've had bad reps too. Even especially locally here, unfortunately. But yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, there's always going to be
Yeah,
bad people, but I believe most
always.
are most are good.
Well, you can only hope.
Yeah, it's some days it's harder to believe that than others.
Yeah, yeah, especially right now.
Mm-hmm. It's
Yeah.
very hard to stay off social media.
I know I've had to like put time screen limits on mine because and so now I'm like, I'm out, I'm done for the day. Just because I'll be on there way too long, and it's just, I could be doing something more productive with my time.
Yeah, I think I've
Yeah.
tried those, but you can disable them. So it's like I'm just gonna
Yeah.
go in and disable it.
That was like, I don't really do the New Year resolution thing. That was one thing I started January 1st, and I haven't disabled it yet, but it's probably gonna happen. So we'll see.
Alrighty, are there any like websites or anything you'd like to promote for yourself or?
I don't have any personal websites,
Okay.
no. Yeah, I have a packet though, so if there's anybody who wants like resources for Arizona, I can always provide that to you. That has a list of all the resources that we have here.
Yeah, definitely
Um,
email it to me and I'll
yes,
post it in my Discord group.
perfect. I will send that to your way.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on,
Yeah,
and I hope you have a good rest of the week.
you too. Is there anything else I can answer or
Not that I can think of, but
I
maybe
know.
later.
I was trying to just make it as casual as possible, but yeah, if there's anything else I can answer, more than happy to. So,
Awesome. Thank you very
all
much.
right. Thanks, Nick. Have a great day.
You as well. Take care.
Thanks. You too.
Well, guys, that was two stories today, guys. I hope you guys really enjoyed listening to the stories today. I'm trying to figure out a better angle for the camera. Like it, I want to make it so when I'm looking at the person on Zoom, it looks like I'm staring in the camera. But right now, it only does if I'm actually looking at the camera, where I'm looking at the screen like I am now. It's not the best. But so we have two interviews on Wednesday. Yeah, two interviews on Wednesday. I try to make it go for at least a half an hour to an hour. It just depends how much. Oh my gosh, now it's not even focus. Just depends how much we have to talk about and like if I can think of any questions. We'll get better as the days go on. But so we got two interviews tomorrow, and then I'll probably try to schedule some more later. And I think I'm gonna go to just one stream a day, one interview a day instead of two. Just so I don't have to end the stream and start it back up again. We can just do one. And maybe eventually get into like doing group kind of interviews, I guess, where you can just talk as like a group of survivors about like struggles we've had. Because it's a lot easier to bounce things off of people when you have a group rather than just one-on-one. But anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the streams today, and we'll see you next time.